So you're thinking about doing the North Coast 500. You've probably got a few questions then, like how long should you go for, where should you actually go, and how do you go about not getting trapped in a Scottish cave? The usual stuff. Well, in this handy wee guide, we'll lay it all out for you. I'll also serve you up a healthy wee dose of inspiration for your own trip and show you the bits that you'd be kicking yourself if you missed. Now before we get into all that, what is the North Coast 500? Well, it's a roughly 500-mile road trip around the north of Scotland, and it features some of the most beautiful scenery you'll find anywhere in the world. Our travels began in Inverness. An ideal spot to put some food in your belly for what lies ahead, and also replace your claymore if you've misplaced yours. So when leaving Inverness, which way round should you go? This is an easy one. Go from east to west, because although the east is very pretty, it's not a patch on the beauty that the west has to offer. Night one for us was in John O'Groats, at the classic John O'Groats campsite, and I'm gonna be honest here, there isn't that much to do in John O'Groats. However, it is one of the most northernmost points and you can go see that famous sign, so I'd keep it in your trip. And if, like us, you're lucky enough to have a beautifully clear night, you'll be treated to an absolutely jaw-dropping sunset.
Morning.
So one question probably on your mind is, what clothes should I pack? Well, this is Scotland, and although our trip was really sunny and dry, this is incredibly rare. The weather can change from being beaming sunshine to snow literally within minutes, so make sure you bring a good mix of light and heavier clothing with you. So on day 2, stop number 1 for us was at Dunnet Head. This is the most northern point of the UK, and if your partner's got a fear of heights, make sure you don't heel click them, and another top tip, don't enthusiastically grab at them near to the edge. I made this mistake. Supposedly, this is a top spot to see a wee shag as well. After this we hit the road again, and on to Thurso we went, for the Blue Door Diner. Now this place might not look much from the outside, but I assure you the food, and especially the milkshakes, the milkshakes are worth the visit alone. So good, it made Lauren emotional. So after a wee cry, we were back on the road. And one of the great things about the North Coast 500 is just stopping off on areas that you find, like this deserted, gorgeous beach, where we took that thumbnail picture, which wasn't as easy as you might think. So as we wound our way to that night's destination in a place called Tongue at the Kyle of Tongue campsite, the scenery just got better and better. We opted to stay in the Kyle of Tongue campsite over the more popular Sango Sands campsite, and boy were we glad we did. The combination of coastal views and beautiful dramatic mountains made it so worthwhile. And although we didn't discover a bad campsite in our travels, this was by far our favourite so far. And just like that, day 3 rolled around, and we were back in our camper van, who's got a name by the way. His name's Boaby. Now one really good question you've probably got is, when in the year should you go? Well, I'd really recommend that you choose and plan this carefully. If you go too early in the year, it'll be absolutely bloody freezing and probably covered in snow. Too late in the year and the route starts to get super busy, and the midges will also be in full swing. The sweet spot, I'd say, is right around the late May to early June time. So first stop on day 3 was the Golden Eagle zipline in Durness. Now the only tips I can give you here is to hold on tight and also prepare for a 30-minute or so wait in peak season. So how about driving the route? What is it like? Well, honestly, I would say there's nothing to be too concerned about here, even if you're not the most confident of drivers. Likely the biggest challenge you'll face is the fact that a lot of it is single track roads. However, there are adequate passing places, so you just need to take your time and you'll be fine. It was then on to Smoo Caves. Now this was one of the highlights of the trip. They run guided boat tours that take you through these maze of caves, and they show you where people lived hundreds of years ago. Now I'm not going to spoil it all for you, but make sure you do this activity. It's also only £10 each, so it's not going to break the bank. One top tip I would give you though is do not put your hands in the water, as these caves are home to some of the only remaining piranha that live in Scotland. From there, we cracked on to the famous Cocoa Mountain for some awesome hot chocolates and cakes, and my lord. One tip though, don't make the mistake that we did and assume that they sell food. We were going to get lunch there. They don't sell food, it's literally just chocolatey things, but absolutely still worth the visit. Fueled by nothing but chocolatey items, Lauren and I fired up Boaby one last time for the day and headed south, down the west coast towards Ullapool, where we'd be staying in another campsite. Now don't forget on this route to stop off at the Kyle Bridge for the gram. We sure did. Ullapool is a beautiful little town and probably the first proper civilization you'll have seen in a couple of days. So we took full advantage of it again by, yes, you guessed it, eating. Our campsite this night was just on the outskirts of Ullapool, and we rounded the night off with a few drinks on the beach, which was just marvellous. Day 4 was our last full day of travelling, and we opted to visit Skye, and wow, were we glad we did. Skye was probably the most dramatic looking place I've ever been. We headed down to the fairy pools, and I have to admit, given that it's a 40-minute walk to and from them, I was sceptical. But again, I was wrong. The colour of the water is otherworldly, and the sense of the place is just virgin on magical. So whilst not strictly on the North Coast 500, I highly, highly recommend that you add in Skye to your trip. So how should you do the North Coast 500? Well, for us, going by Campervan was perfect. It meant we were constantly in the thick of it without having to retreat to a hotel room. We booked campsites for 3 of our 4 nights with a plan to wild camp on the last night, but honestly I don't recommend you do that. Just book your sites in advance and it means you can just relax. We found where you were and weren't allowed to park a camper for the night was a bit of a grey area. And even at the end of May, sites are really busy, but thankfully we did come across one site that could offer us a place. Hey. On our final night, we rounded off this epic trip with a few civilised drinks on the beach, as well as a barbecue, and reflected on a trip that honestly I think I'll remember forever. Oh, and I made some new friends here as well.
Can't leave it alone.
So how much did all this elaborate holidaying in sunny Scotland cost? Well, here's a breakdown. So Boaby was the biggest expense, £500, campsites around about £100, fuel about £160, so a total of around about £760. But here's the thing, we would have paid triple that price for the road trip that we had. I truly do believe Scotland is one of the most beautiful places on earth, and urge you, go and do this trip, you won't regret it. Now if you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a wee like, and if you want to see more escapades from Lauren and I, usually involving a fast car, hit the subscribe button as well. But for now, I'll catch you after today.